Hey folks, I'm Pretoria. I'm the developer for Blushing Kitsune Basket, and today I'm so excited to talk about our first Steam release, Crinchure Collector, a cozy and grim cute gacha incremental game with a little bit of darkness and a whole lot of lore. Crinchure Collector, or CC, was birthed on December 20th, 2024, after a few months of playing Pokemon TCG Pocket. But playing doesn't really describe my experience with that game. Open game, open 2 packs, click a dozen buttons, accepting rewards for clicking those 2 packs, close game. Sure, it has battles, I tried them, honestly played way more than I would have in any non-gacha game because of those sweet, sweet rewards, but outside of the deck building, every game felt decided on turn 1. Who goes first, who's got the counter deck? That disappointment drove me to make my own gacha game with more of an emphasis on decision making, and no microtransactions. So great, we're gonna make a gacha game to top of the likes of TCG Pocket. How exactly? I'm an engineer at heart, so my first thought is, what's the first step I'm gonna need? Well, we're gonna need to randomly get something. Seems like a fine place to start, but what are we gonna gacha for? How did 2 game devs with $0 of funding produce the quantity of assets needed to make an engaging gacha experience? Well, a few months prior, we'd finished our summer block of game jams, aka make 3 to 4 games in 2 months, and the art from one of our games, Crinchure Rescue, really stuck with me. The jam ended on July 23rd, and 7 days later, I made a note in my Obsidian vault detailing the initial idea of CC. It is completely unrecognizable from the final game, and probably a terrible idea, but it's so damn cynical that I just couldn't follow up with it. Cool, so gonna reuse the tech from previous games, just whip up that prototype real quick, hooked up a button, had to spawn a random Crinchure via the same generation script that I used for Crinchure Rescue, and thought, oh, okay, that's something. But they just sat there, and I thought that was pretty boring. So what's more fun than sitting there? And add some dynamism to the scene, a lesson I've learned from previous games. No one wants to look at a totally lifeless scene. The answer, of course, is spinning, duh. Sweet, so now we've got every possible in the game spinning out of a single button. It's kind of neat. Low-key nailing half my design goals here, but what about the other one? Where's the decisions? It was around this time, one of my favorite DevLog YouTubers, Fast Forward My Games, released his video, Make Any Game Mechanic Goated. It and the rest of his videos have been really helpful on my journey, and I'd recommend the channel to any aspiring devs. Video deep dives into the concept of risk versus reward, and it came right when I really needed it. How do we inject risk into a game based on the literal concept of reward? Well, as I've grown older, I've found my only true enemy is time, and everyone always says to write what you know, so what if you're fighting against time itself? Give the player some options to do things quickly or slowly, balance the decisions around time cost, add a reason to care, hashtag definitely not crowbid. Easy clap, right? Oh, Freya, you naive fool. After adding 5 areas, a dozen or so locations to those areas, and splitting up the Crinchures all around, turns out it's really boring to make that same decision over and over again for dozens of hours. Wow, who'd have thought? Also, it wasn't even a decision, since I'm pretty sure it was always better to do the quick option over the slow option. Regardless, moment-to-moment gameplay was not fun, and for some reason I thought minigames would be the solution. Spoiler, they were not. But I'd finally pushed towards a reasonable prototype V1 of my weird game idea, and after learning that early feedback is key, I yeeted this strange little guy out into the void of humanity. I dropped the first version of Crinchure Collector on Itch.io, Galaxy, Desolver Plaza, and Incremental DB. Places I've previously played a ton of games on, lots especially incremental games. Opinions were mixed. One thing was clear to me, I had made a gacha game, one that also suffered in the gameplay department. Nits. Back to the drawing board. So how do I know that this game had issues? I read every single comment that was left on any of these sites, and I created a feedback Google sheet that was linked on the title screen of the game to gather some empirical data. There were a few pieces of feedback that kept cropping up that I knew I needed to focus on for V2. Minigames bad, obviously, illusion of choice, and lack of content. Okay, yeah, so let's add the option to play a minigame for better rewards. People will definitely only play it sometimes. No, actually, people will do the thing that gives them the best rewards, even if it sucks, every time. Looking at me, Destiny Loot Cave. Definitely didn't help that the minigames themselves weren't particularly fun or engaging, even if you barely touched them. Oops. Okay, so minigames go bye-bye. Shouldn't have spent the month of dev time on them, but it's fine. So what the heck are we gonna do now? The other two choices weren't good in the first place. Also, losing days just feels bad in general, so the failure rate has got to go from those decisions. In V1, there was only a single event, the Crinchure. Every 7 to 13 days or so, you'd be given the option to appreciate the beauty, attracting more super dopes, or focus on your goal to simply attract more total. Split felt pretty natural in game, so I leaned into it with the different Crinchure attraction options. Instead of passive and risky, it's efficient and thorough, and you're deciding between quantity and quality daily instead of just during Crinchure. I knew that I didn't want to just add Crinchures to fill the content gap, and I had notes from V1 where I was interested in adding cupcake baking to the game, so that and the ingredient recipes to go along with them were going to be part of it. But if you get ingredients every time you go scavenging, how is this decision even exciting? And why would you ever scavenge over looking for Crinchures if it's the goal of the game? Swords, obviously, and a day-night cycle. Who wouldn't love a day-night cycle? Swords are dope. I love swords, despite their violent history. So yeah, we're gonna have swords. Feedback led to the swords getting buffs attached to them, so they'd feel more impactful as a rare drop, and suddenly we have one of the core tenets of any great video game, progression. You can now start weak and grow more and more powerful over the course of the game. Hell yeah. The day-night cycle isn't too creative on its own, but by forcing the Crinchures to sleep at night, you now have a reason to always engage with the scavenging mechanic without needing to give up your main objective for it. Loop is starting to feel like a real game here. We can choose how to approach Crinchures, how to approach the Crinchure, what types of treats to bake, and place where and when. Of course, with any new systems, there are going to be growing pains. Night can feel like a waste of time when you've gotten all the swords, and there's not enough variety in the day-to-day gameplay. For the Steam release, I knew we needed solutions to these problems, and frankly, just more stuff in general to justify a paid game over the free version. So it's time to cook up a new feature. While CC had more decision making than before, it still didn't feel like it was quite striking at that game level I was striving for. I always wanted CC to be a game that could be enjoyed as a cozy collectible experience or as a challenge to race against the clock, and now you get to make that decision as soon as you boot up the game. Are you here for the vibes or for a quest? Ever-present reminder of your partner's imminent doom can be a bit of a downer for a cozy game player, obviously, so now you don't have to deal with it. If you want to engage with the game systems and take on a challenge, quest mode will give you a chance to save your partner before their ultimate fate. And after getting your first swords, you're going to start seeing some new collectibles showing up at ley lines, the place where you scavenge. These collectibles can be infested alongside your Crinchures to multiply the stats your swords give. Leveling up your shrines will also force your Crinchures awake at night, letting you choose how you want to spend your time. So between the sword shrines and the dozens of events that are planned for the full release, there are more things than ever to distract you from your ultimate goal. I've also added a secret path for you to follow that will eventually lead to the ultimate conclusion of Crinchure Collector, at least for the first Steam version. I'm looking forward to seeing if you all can figure it out. Now, on our third major iteration, Crinchure Collector has finally gotten to the point where I'm proud of what we've made. The half-day to half-day decision-making has several layers of thought you can engage with if you desire, but it also provides the opportunity to turn your brain off and just vibe while you meet new friends and explore a weird post-apocalyptic Earth. It obviously wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, though, so here are a few things that I learned on this journey. One, the narrative system in the game is frankly such a beautiful disaster that it deserves a video of its own, so if you're interested in that, leave a comment. It's really awesome in that you can easily add any new condition to the narrative flow in just a few lines of code, but the downside is that it's so incredibly overbloated and complex that it's basically impossible to understand, and completely impossible to get a grasp of all of the text in a single event. Awesome community members spotted a typo in an event. It's probably going to take me at least 30 minutes to find where that typo is. 2, get feedback early and often. I cannot stress this enough. Every single major improvement and step forward in the game came from throwing my terrible, bug-ridden version out into the void and having lovely people tell me how I could make it better. Thank you so much to everyone that has left any bug reports or constructive criticism as comments. You all make it so much easier to keep doing this, and our games would not be so great without you. 3, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's going to make a great game. Frankly, I don't think this idea should have been made into a game. It took so many extra steps to get to the point where it was fun that I probably should have just made something else, something more marketable or something more recognizable instead of a cozy collectathon incremental gacha game. It is the first C-Sig, I guess. That being said, I'm so glad I decided to make this freakish little abomination of a game. I think it's truly a one-of-a-kind experience, and if you like collecting stuff, watching your numbers go up, or just vibing with some cute little pixel guys, this game is for you. So, what did you think about my game development process? It's a bit weird and unconventional, but I think it proves that not every game has to be born the same way. What are you the most excited to see in Crinchure Collector? Leave a comment and let us know. If you made it this far, thank you so much. We'd really appreciate it if you could check out our demo that launches today for Next Fest and leave us an honest review. And like, subscribe, bless the algorithm for us. And thank you so much once again. Hope you all have a super dope day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.